Welcome to the CNBC Africa debate, coming to you live from the World Economic Forum on Africa, currently in session in Cape Town. Our focus for the next hour is agriculture, investing in transformation. And in this session, we focus on how partnerships across the African continent are accelerating investment in this vital sector of the economy. Joining me from my immediate right, I have Akin Adesina, Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development in Nigeria, Philip Carrero, the President and Chairman of the Eastern African Farmers Federation, Kenya, Jane Karuku, who's President of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, or AGRA, Michael Mack, the CEO, Syngenta International, and James Mwangi, the Group CEO of Equity Bank Kenya. We'll be accepting audience questions throughout today's discussion via Twitter. Our hashtag is #WefAgriculture. Now, the World Bank expects Africa's farmers and agribusinesses to become $1 trillion food market by 2030 by expanding access to more capital, electricity, better technology, and irrigated land. But this will require governments to work side by side with agribusinesses to link farmers with consumers in an increasingly urbanized Africa.
African agriculture, traditionally seen as subsistence, is being recognized as a powerful driver of the continent's growth. And despite covering a surface area of roughly 30 million square kilometers, with 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, Africa is still footing a food input bill of $50 billion annually.
We moved from a self-sufficient production system to a net importing situation, to the extent that now we were importing and spending $11 billion importing basic things like wheat, rice, sugar, and fish. It doesn't make any sense given our potential.
Agriculture accounts for more than 1/3 of sub-Saharan Africa's economic output, and the food market is valued at $310 billion and has the potential to grow to $1 trillion by 2030, according to the World Bank.
A major turnaround also is in looking at it just as a social sector, and really more as an economic sector, and looking at farmers not just as people who need to be helped, but as agribusinesses and potential economic powerhouses in their own right.
There have been a contribution of factors that has led to Africa's lackluster food production. These include issues around property rights, land grabbing, and a lack of investment in modern technology.
It's all good to provide people with land, but they also have to have the capacity to cultivate and manage the land that they have, and that's why they need training and infrastructure for transport, water, machinery, etc. They need to know how to handle seeds, they need to know how to transport their yields, and they also need to know how to store their yields. So this all comes back to education.
Und das ist das Wichtigste.
By 2030, Africa will have one of the youngest populations in the world, and according to a study by the Population Reference Bureau, this demographic will be the driving force behind the continent's economic prosperity.
The key challenge going forward, though, will be how we can get young people interested in agriculture, simply because they are the majority. And this is where I think much more needs to be done.
2030 is the target for Africa to become a net food exporter and agriculture to become a $1 trillion industry. And for this vision to be realized, it will require a unified effort to create the conditions in which African farmers can flourish.
Well, Minister Adesina, we may be in search of a $1 trillion business in Africa when it comes to agriculture, but you have been quoted as saying that you want agriculture to be bigger than oil in Nigeria. That's quite a big statement for an oil-based economy. Is it a reality?
Absolutely. Take a look at it. Nobody drinks oil and nobody smokes gas. Agriculture is going to be the lifeline for Africa. And why not? Take a look at Nigeria, for example. We have 84 million hectares of land, of which no more than 60% of it is cultivated. And in fact, in terms of optimal cultivation, no more than 10% of it is in high-quality seed, fertilizers, mechanization, and good irrigation. But the key in terms of transforming agriculture in Africa, for me, is that we have to make a fundamental paradigm shift. Agriculture is not a social sector. Agriculture is not a development activity. Agriculture is a business. Whether you're in seed and fertilizer, processing, value adding, transport, logistics, everything about agriculture is a business. That, for me, is fundamental. Secondly, we must understand that the role of government in agriculture is not to produce anything. The role of government is to provide enabling environment, right policies, institutions to support private sector, good regulations, and infrastructure support for the private sector to drive the system. Agriculture in Africa must shift into that kind of a thing. For me, in Nigeria, we have focused on making our agriculture more productive, efficient, competitive. We want to be a global player with the kind of water we have, cheap labor we have to intensify agriculture. It makes absolutely no sense to me that we are a large importer of food, and we want to industrialize agriculture and make it to be a major revenue earner for us. And so some of the things that I think are very fundamental, there must be some major reforms. Major reforms to get a private sector in seed, in fertilizers, in tractors, in irrigation, privatizing a lot of things. Those are very, very important. When I became minister in Nigeria, I inherited a system of fertilizer supply that was probably the most corrupt system that you found in Nigeria. Government bought and sold fertilizers, and the fertilizer was half sand and half fertilizer. And so what we did was it took us 90 days.
Minister, I'm going to interrupt you there. I'm going to come to the enabling environment that you've created in Nigeria because I want to focus on it in more detail a little further down in the discussion. Okay. But I want to bring Philip in now in terms of a voice for East African farmers. Philip, the minister has said that agriculture should be seen as a business. Is that how the East African community is seeing agriculture right now?
Yeah, in fact, I'm glad to report that the East African community actually sees agriculture as a business. It also sees agriculture as a means to regional integration. Because if we can actually be food secure as a region, we should actually be able to actually integrate our people and businesses. So I'm glad within the region that is the understanding, and also within the farm organizations, because all our activities as professional farm organizations are geared towards economic services to agriculture, so that our small-scale farmers can actually get to transforming their businesses and getting to agriculture as a business.
Jane, Agra committed to doubling the income of 20 million farmers by 2020. Ambitious goal. Are you on track?
Yes, it is very ambitious and it is doable, and we are on our way there. And I think we do this, I'll take a bit of time to explain how we do it. We are doing it by intervening across the entire value chain, right from the seed to the table. Because we know the challenging, our target is to work with smallholder farmers, and they have a lot of structural challenges to be competitive so that they can see themselves as a business like Philip is describing them to be. So we do attack capacity building right from technology basis. So we've taken about 800 scientists across Africa in the 16 countries that we work in, who come back to Africa and work in research so that they can develop through biotechnology good varieties that can withstand the changing climates, that can improve productivity and can deliver to the farmer household, both for eating, for consumption, and for selling the excess so they can do the other things that they need to do in life. Yeah.
Michael, Minister Adesina a moment ago talking about creating that enabling environment. We are going to drill down into how he's doing that specifically in Nigeria. But as the private sector representative, what are you looking for?
Well, look, Africa today is a very large agricultural economy in and of its own right. Today, there's more land under cultivation in Africa than all of China and all of India. And often we think about powerhouse agricultural economies like Russia and Brazil, and there is more land under cultivation in all of Africa than Russia and Brazil combined. So when you think about the productivity, though, of the African continent, it's not very high. So for us, we see this as a growth imperative. This is really going to be an agricultural powerhouse. It's just a question of when.
And James, of course, finance is key to this equation. Many people must be knocking on your door. How are you meeting the needs of farmers out there?
Thank you very much. Financing of agriculture is becoming more interesting. We are seeing governments invest substantially in creating the infrastructure to support this sector. We are seeing a change of mind where development institutions are seeing now agriculture as a business as opposed to a philanthropic development or social sector. And again, we are seeing enormous infusion of capacity building, particularly through partnerships. People like AGRA, governments like Nigeria, and a lot of resources are being devoted to raise the capacity of the farmers. And consequently, they become bankable and their businesses become bankable. So it becomes pretty easy, and we are seeing huge flows in that sector.
Mr. Adesina, coming back to this enabling environment and certainly weeding out corruption, you were mentioning seed and fertilizer where you have managed to make this possible. How have you done that?
I think that's what happens is that, in Nigeria, as with most African countries, government was buying and selling fertilizers and seed. And as you do that, the government essentially crowds out the private sector. And so the value chain, the supply chains of the seed companies and the fertilizer companies essentially get truncated and goes only to the government warehouse. And when that happens, in the case of Nigeria, we were finding that fertilizer, as I was saying earlier, was half sand and half fertilizer. People will buy seed of the grain of the main market and sell it as seed. And so basically the farmers were being shortchanged. We were not really subsidizing farmers. For those 4 decades, we were subsidizing corruption. And so when I became minister, the president was very clear that we had to clean up the system. And it took us essentially 90 days to clean it up. We took the government out of buying and selling. We privatized it. We put it all back in the hands of private sector. And today, in 1 year after doing it, the private sector seed companies in Nigeria sold $100 million worth of fertilizers directly to farmers as opposed to government. The seed companies sold $10 million worth of seed to farmers instead of to government. And that's a huge thing for us. And the other thing that we did was we developed this system called electronic wallet. In Nigeria today, we have 150 million plus cell phones. We have more cell phones than you have of televisions in Nigeria. And so we took the power of that cell phone and we registered our farmers. Today, we have registered 10 million farmers, all with full biometric information, and we send electronic coupons for seed and fertilizers to them by mobile phones. In our first year, we reached 1.5 million of them, and that impacted 7.5 million people. This year, we are going to reach 10 million of them by phone. So we've taken a sector that was a murky sector, corrupt sector, and we've opened it up. Today, I can tell you as a minister which farmer gets what, when did they get it, where did they get it, how much did they pay, how much did we pay. And so that is the role of government. And I say my job is farmers minister. I don't need anybody between me and farmers. And technology of cutting out the rent seekers is the fastest way to do it.
The minister refers to electronic wallet. iCow apparently is prevalent in Kenya, and it can tell you when a cow is on heat, what you need to feed the cow in order to produce more milk. So certainly we've got technology transforming the agricultural landscape. Are you seeing your farmers embracing technology?
Yeah, in fact, we're actually seeing our farmers embracing technology with capacity. Because even within our own organizations, we have actually ensured that we actually strengthen our knowledge management and communication systems so that we can actually be able to actually connect farmers with the existing innovations in communications and be able to do business. Because if they're actually properly connected and informed and they actually know exactly what to do with the technology that is actually available through innovative platforms, they should actually be able to get into business. But I have a feeling that all that we're actually doing is trying to ensure that the environment is right. But we have a feeling that there are basics that needs to be right before farmers can actually be confident and be able to take advantage of the existing innovations and technologies. And one that is required for small-scale farmers is organization. Because if you look at the innovations and the service providers, they will not be able to service small-scale farmers properly unless they're organized. The banks, the extension, research, name it. They will not be able to do a good job unless the farmers are actually properly organized. Because if you take the character of agriculture in Africa, 70% of it is actually small scale. And we need to actually find innovative ways of actually servicing that category of farming that is actually dominant in our own countries. So organization for us is actually key. And with organization, as you said, those different innovations that actually exist out there. And for Kenya, I think we are blessed in that we have those next door. The farmers will actually be able to take advantage of them.
Jane, you also are passionate about organized farmers and cooperation in terms of meeting investors' needs on a larger scale. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I think We have very many examples where we are seeing successful groups of farmers come together and they link up to even supplying larger multinationals. We have examples in South Sudan where cassava, and Mozambique and Ghana where cassava growers are coming together, and they've actually become a key supplier of cassava as a source of starch to make beer for Southern Africa breweries, and I understand that it tastes better, much better than the barley one. A lot of people may not agree. And then this, because a small farmer inherently is small and they have no voice and they're uncompetitive, so farmer groups are a very good platform for them to come together so they can build their scale and they can have negotiating power either for buying their own inputs or for selling their own produce. And I think the challenge there then is how do you build their capacity so they start thinking and they run themselves like a business. And we have good examples in Kenya, in Malawi, in West Africa, Fasojigi, Davids, and Tanzania as well. And I think it's a way of life. But the challenge and where we find a gap, and this is where probably governments can play a role, is that how do you create an enabling environment for either capacity building or for the laws and then the platforms where these farmers come together, and in a way that we don't see them as competing with the political powers that are, because that has been a challenge in the past.
Michael, I just want to stay on technology for a moment and how you balance technological innovation with employment, because traditionally farming has been used as an empowerment tool.
Well, look, first of all, technology is perfectly compatible with smallholder farmers. So many people think about it as when you bring technology in, labor can move off the land. It's been noted many times that hand weeding isn't exactly a very agreeable job on a farm. Farmers that are technologically enabled are able to put their kids in school, and with more prosperity, of course, success does breed success. I agree with Philip that African farmers are themselves very willing and able to use the most modern technology that's available. What we need to have more of are markets for them to sell their production to. And as Jane said, the best way to make those markets